chosen one, lock your attention on this message right now. That confusion pulling at your heart, the one making you question whether what you feel is real or whether you are allowed to feel it at all. Silence it. The enemy is working overtime against you today for one reason and one reason only. He sees the confirmation that heaven just released over your life. It all ends right now. The second guessing, the shame, the warfare inside your own mind. But hear me clearly, because this is the part most people miss. It is not ending because things finally became easy. It is ending because of what you have already survived. Think back to that moment this week when someone looked at you with judgment in their eyes, or maybe it was a voice inside your own head that sounded like judgment. And instead of defending yourself, instead of explaining yourself, you stayed quiet. You walked away. You chose peace over performance. You did not know it then, but that moment of restraint was not weakness. That was the decree being signed. That was heaven moving on your behalf in a language you did not yet recognize. You did not find this recording by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. God did. This is a divine appointment that was scheduled before the foundations of the earth were laid. You are standing at a threshold right now, and what you receive in the next few minutes will determine which side of that threshold you walk into. Stay until the very last second, because in this message, I am going to hand you the spiritual verdict that confirms what you have already felt in your spirit. I am going to expose the specific lie the enemy has planted in your mind about this connection, the lie that has been using your own voice against you. And at the end, I am going to give you a declaration that seals this season and silences the accuser once and for all. Do not click away. Your future self, the version of you who is standing in the fullness of what God promised, is asking you to stay. Because if you leave now, you leave before the verdict is read. I know what the last 72 hours have felt like. The atmosphere has not just been uncertain, it has been heavy, like something is pressing down on a decision you have not yet made out loud but have already made in your heart. Maybe you have been lying awake at 3:0 inches the morning this week, staring at the ceiling, running through every reason why this feels too complicated, too unconventional, too much for other people to understand. Or maybe you were sitting alone yesterday, and a quiet thought moved through you, a thought that felt less like fear and more like clarity, like something settling into place, and you almost let yourself believe it before the doubt came rushing back in. You feel suspended, like you are standing in the space between what everyone else says your life should look like and what God has actually been preparing for you. And in this space, the enemy has been whispering a very specific lie. Listen carefully to your own thoughts, because you will recognize this. He has been telling you that the difference in age means something is wrong, that if this were truly from God, it would feel simpler, more conventional, less scrutinized. He has been replaying moments for you, maybe a conversation that went sideways, or perhaps a look from someone you respect, or even your own reflection in a moment of doubt. And he has been telling you that those moments are proof that you have misread this, that you have stepped outside of the will of God, that what you feel is desire dressed up as destiny. But I need you to hear what the Word of God actually says about this moment. Ruth chapter 3 verse 11 says, "And now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you all that you request, for all the people of my town know that you are a virtuous woman." Do not miss what is happening in that verse. Boaz did not look at Ruth and see the age, the history, the gap between their worlds. He looked at her character. He spoke to her virtue, and God honored that union and wrote it into the lineage of Jesus Christ himself. The enemy wants you to believe that what separates you from this person disqualifies the connection. But God has never measured a covenant by what looks conventional to the outside world. He measures it by the fruit, by the Spirit, by the alignment of two people who are moving in the same direction under His authority. The heaviness you feel right now is not the weight of a mistake. It is the weight of something real. It is the pressure that comes right before a confirmation breaks through the surface. It is what it feels like when God is not revoking something but releasing it. You thought your silence was confusion. You thought your restraint was fear. But let me reframe your reality right now. That was not indecision. That was discernment. And God is about to reward it. Some messages don't just inform, they activate. If something stirred deep in your spirit just now, you may be ready to receive the Chosen One's blueprint. This sacred guide reveals the 8 divine patterns behind your calling, your suffering, and your destiny. It also comes with the full audiobook, so you can absorb it during prayer, rest, or quiet moments with God. And for those called to speak His truth, you'll also receive Activating Your Prophet Mantle, a powerful bonus ebook for those carrying a prophetic assignment. The link is in the first pinned comment, but only for a limited time. Now let's go deeper, because what most people do with this kind of confirmation is exactly what keeps it from manifesting, keeps it from blossoming into the tangible reality God intended. They receive the sign, a profound whisper from the divine, a gentle yet undeniable nudge that resonates deep within their soul. They feel the warmth in their chest, a spiritual ember ignited, a knowing that transcends mere intellect. They nod along, perhaps with tears welling, or a sense of awe washing over them, acknowledging the truth. And then, almost instinctively, they walk back into their old patterns, like a well-worn path carved by years of habit and fear. They retreat into their old fears, those familiar anxieties that whisper doubts and limitations. They re-enter their old conversations, the internal dialogues and external echoes of what society deems acceptable or logical. And they quietly, almost imperceptibly, talk themselves out of what God just confirmed. This isn't because they don't believe in God's omnipotence, His boundless love, or His ability to perform miracles. No, the insidious root of this retreat is far more subtle and personal. It's because they don't fully believe they are someone God would do something this specific for, someone worthy of such intimate, bespoke attention. That, beloved, is the root. That is the hidden wall, often invisible even to themselves, a self-imposed barrier built from years of perceived inadequacy and unworthiness. The issue was never whether God is speaking. His voice echoes through creation and whispers into the depths of every seeking heart. The issue, the profound challenge we face, is whether you truly believe you are someone worth speaking to in this kind of detail, with such precision and unwavering intentionality. Do you truly grasp that the creator of the cosmos would tailor-make a message, a destiny, a connection just for you? Think about what that means for a moment, and let the sheer magnitude of it wash over you. The creator of everything, every swirling galaxy, every radiant star, every unfathomable ocean trench, every delicate breath you take is not sending out a generic, wide-band broadcast into the ether. He is not addressing a faceless crowd. He is giving you a personal word, a divine message imprinted with your unique spiritual fingerprint. He is pointing at a specific person, a specific connection that may defy conventional wisdom, a specific age gap that the world may scrutinize, question, or even condemn, and saying, with the full weight of His sovereignty, "This is intentional. This is mine. I designed this from the fabric of eternity for purposes far grander than human understanding." And the warfare you feel around this relationship isn't random. It's never an accident of circumstance. It is a direct assault, a strategic maneuver by the enemy of your soul. Warfare of that magnitude, that intensity of opposition, that relentless barrage of doubt and external criticism, is always proportional to the assignment attached to what's being attacked. The greater the divine blueprint, the more fierce the resistance. When heaven moves to establish something profoundly significant, hell mobilizes to obstruct it. This spiritual turbulence is not a sign to retreat, but a divine indicator of the immense value and kingdom purpose embedded within this connection. It is the enemy's desperate attempt to blind you to the treasure God has placed before you. And this is precisely where it goes deeper than most people are willing to go, deeper than the superficial judgments and societal norms. The age difference in this connection isn't merely the surface detail you perceive it to be, a mere numerical disparity that invites human commentary. It is, in fact, a profound spiritual symbol, a sacred language God is using to communicate truths about His nature and His kingdom. He is telling you something about seasons, not merely the passage of time, but the divine orchestration of life cycles, the ripening of experience, and the blossoming of potential. He is revealing how He operates far outside the confines of human timelines, the linear expectations, and the finite logic we impose upon life. He pairs people not based on the transient logic of the world, which often prioritizes superficial compatibility or conventional expectations, but based on the assignment of the kingdom, the divine purpose each individual carries, and how they are meant to interweave for a greater tapestry. When God sovereignly joins a person who has been through the refining fire of life, who carries the scars of battles fought and wisdom forged in adversity, with someone who is still stepping into their vibrant, unquenched flame, there is a profound transfer happening. This is a divine transfer of wisdom earned through suffering, of depth cultivated in the crucible of experience, of spiritual weight and authority gained through faithful endurance. One carries the seasoned grace and understanding that the other is being prepared to receive and fully embody. And that exchange, that sacred giving and receiving, that intergenerational anointing, is not accidental. It is not a coincidence. It is architectural. It is meticulously designed, a foundational element in a larger divine structure, precisely engineered by the master builder himself. It is a testament to God's economy, where nothing is wasted, and every life story contributes to the unfolding of His magnificent plan. Look at how He did it throughout Scripture, leaving us vivid blueprints of His unconventional wisdom. Consider the story of Ruth and Boaz, a timeless narrative embedded in the very lineage of Christ. Ruth was younger, a foreign woman with a tragic past. Boaz, on the other hand, had lived longer, walked harder, more arduous roads, carried the weight of more grief, more seasons of life. He was a man of substance, of mature faith and established reputation. The world could have questioned their union, dismissing it as unsuitable, perhaps even scandalous. Culture, with its rigid customs and societal expectations, certainly could have questioned it, pointing to disparities in age, background, and status. But God, in His infinite wisdom, didn't consult culture. He consulted purpose. He saw beyond the visible, into the very heart of their assignments. And what came from that sacred union wasn't just a beautiful love story that inspires us today. It was a foundational bloodline that ultimately carried the Messiah, the Savior of the world. That age gap wasn't a scandal to God's eyes. It wasn't an impediment. It was a seed, carefully planted by divine design, destined to yield a harvest beyond human comprehension, forever altering the course of salvation history. It was a testament to God's ability to take what seems irregular and weave it into His perfect tapestry. But here's where most people get trapped, where the divine current often gets interrupted, and I need you to stay with me on this journey, because what's coming next is the critical part, the pivotal understanding that usually breaks the cycle of inaction and self-sabotage. Most people who receive a divine confirmation like this unmistakable sign from heaven, immediately begin to manage it. They start attempting to control, to temper, to domesticate the wild, untamed nature of a divine calling. They begin shrinking the vision, pruning it back, subtly whittling it down to make it more palatable, more acceptable to the people around them, to fit into the small boxes of human expectation. They start editing the story before it's even truly begun to unfold, before heaven has even finished writing the first chapter, fearfully preempting criticism and misunderstanding. They start apologizing for the fervent calling resounding in their chest, not to God, who authored it, but to people who were never assigned to understand its depth, its unconventional nature, or its ultimate purpose. And every single apology you make for what God has unequivocally ordained, for what He has specifically designed and confirmed in your spirit, is not merely an act of humility. It is, in a spiritual sense, an act of agreement with the wrong voice. It is a subtle but powerful concession to the enemy's whispers, validating the very doubts and fears that seek to derail your destiny. You inadvertently give permission for human opinion to supersede divine revelation. The enemy, you see, doesn't always come loudly, not always with overt, thundering opposition that is easily recognized as evil. He doesn't always show up with obvious, monstrous forms of resistance that you can clearly identify and fight against. Sometimes, his tactics are far more insidious, cloaked in familiarity and even good intentions. Sometimes, he shows up as your most well-meaning friend, neighbor, or family member who, out of their own fear or limited perspective, says, with a tone of concern, "Are you sure? Is this really wise? Have you considered all the implications?" Their love might be genuine, but their counsel can still be a conduit for doubt. Sometimes, the enemy shows up as the logical, pragmatic part of your own mind, the calculating faculty that starts meticulously assessing and quantifying what everyone else will think, how society will judge, what the repercussions might be for your reputation or standing. It creates a barrage of what-ifs and buts, designed to paralyze you with overthinking. And what most people don't realize, what often blindsides them, is that the very moment you start letting other people's comfort, their understanding, or their approval become the measuring stick for your obedience to a divine calling, you have already begun to delay your own breakthrough. Not because God suddenly stopped moving, or His plan changed, or His power diminished, but because you, in that moment of compromise, stopped following His divine instruction. You exchanged the compass of faith for the fickle winds of human opinion, and in doing so, you stalled your journey. Now, once you truly grasp that profound distinction between divine confirmation and human compromise, once that truth has settled deep within your spirit, you're ready for this next revelation. The presence of a younger person in this connection is not, contrary to worldly belief, a sign of your immaturity, a signal that you are avoiding personal growth or seeking to escape responsibility. Let that truth land with the full weight of its liberation. The world, with its superficial judgments and conventional wisdom, will undoubtedly try to tell you that pursuing or being drawn to someone younger means you haven't grown, that you are regressing, that it's a sign of avoidance, of an unhealed ego seeking validation, or an unwillingness to meet someone at your level of experience or age. But God, the architect of souls, doesn't operate within that narrow, human-centric framework. He transcends our societal constructs. Sometimes, in His infinite wisdom and precise timing, He places someone younger in your path because the version of you that is powerfully emerging, the person you are becoming, requires a partner whose spirit hasn't yet been hardened by the same trials, the same disappointments, the same soul-crushing experiences that tried to close off your own heart. It requires someone whose spirit is still open, still malleable, still hopeful in the very places where yours, for the sake of survival, had to build walls and close down. That openness isn't a weakness. It's not a lack of experience. It is, in fact, exactly what your next season requires. It is the fresh perspective, the unburdened hope, the vibrant faith that will perfectly complement the wisdom and resilience you carry. It is a divine juxtaposition, designed to bring healing and synergy to both souls involved, creating a dynamic that transcends chronological age and delves into spiritual alignment. And coming up in just a moment, we're going to uncover the one thing most people refuse to see about divine partnerships: the hidden agreement that quietly blocks everything God intends to release through such connections. We will expose why the breakthrough you've been asking for, the freedom and fulfillment you've prayed for, might have been waiting on this exact, divinely orchestrated connection all along, a nexus point for your destiny. But first, this foundational truth has to truly land deep in the bedrock of your being, because there's something beneath the initial confirmation, beneath the immediate glow of recognition, that needs to be bravely named and addressed. Many of you have been in a season of fervent prayer, seeking clarity, desperately asking God to show you whether this profound stirring, this undeniable connection, is truly real, whether it is authentically from Him, whether you should dare to move forward or perhaps retreat and protect yourself from further potential hurt again. And He answered. He did not remain silent. He showed you, clearly and unmistakably, in ways that resonated more deeply than any logical argument ever could. He stirred something in you, a knowing, a profound sense of rightness, a spiritual reverberation that logic can't fully explain or dissect. But instead of fully receiving that answer, instead of embracing the divine affirmation, you found yourself asking the question again and again, not out of genuine doubt, but out of a deeper, more subtle resistance. Because receiving the answer, truly accepting it, means you have to act on it. It means stepping out of the comfortable ambiguity of inquiry and into the vulnerable territory of obedience. And acting on it means you can no longer hide behind the prayer, no longer use the quest for clarity as a shield against the inevitable changes and challenges that come with stepping into your divine assignment. The prayer transforms from a plea into a potential excuse for inaction. This is the pattern that God is breaking in your life right now with fierce love and unwavering intention. It is not primarily the pattern of the enemy, though he plays his part. No, this is the pattern of your own hesitation, the ingrained habit of pausing at the precipice of breakthrough. It is the insidious pattern of asking for confirmation, receiving it with undeniable clarity, and then, almost immediately, requiring more confirmation, then more, then still more, in an endless loop of spiritual procrastination. And why? Because deep down, the real fear isn't that God won't come through, that His promises will fail, or that His power is insufficient. The real, unspoken terror is that He will times come through, that His word will times manifest, and then everything will change. And you've spent so long, perhaps years, building formidable walls around your heart, erecting protective barriers against pain, disappointment, and vulnerability, that the very idea of everything changing, even in a profoundly beautiful, redemptive, and divinely ordained way, feels like an existential threat to the carefully constructed fortress of your perceived safety. The familiarity of your current state, even if it's one of longing or loneliness, feels safer than the terrifying beauty of new beginnings. But here's the part you probably didn't expect, the crucial insight that often remains hidden in plain sight. The true block, the real impediment to your breakthrough, isn't the age gap. It isn't what people will say, the whispers of judgment, or the outright condemnations of those who don't understand. It isn't even the timing, that eternal human struggle to reconcile divine chronology with our impatient desires. No, the block, the deep-seated obstacle, is the part of you that still believes, on some subconscious level, that you don't truly deserve the beautiful, specific, extravagant thing God is offering. It's the part of you that has rehearsed disappointment so many times, that has mentally prepared for loss and rejection as a default setting, that hope itself now feels inherently dangerous, a precarious tightrope walk over an abyss of potential pain. It's the part of you that watches God move with incredible specificity and power in other people's lives, blessing them abundantly, orchestrating their destinies, and quietly wonders, with a pang of insecurity, whether he's truly that specific, that personal, that intimately intentional with times you. The resounding, unequivocal answer, beloved, is yes, he is. He always has been. And this connection, this specific, utterly unexpected, outside-the-box pairing that defies convention and logic, is the living, breathing, undeniable evidence that he sees you, he knows you, and he has meticulously crafted a plan for your profound joy and purpose. It is your personal, undeniable testament to his unwavering love. God, you must understand, doesn't do generic with his chosen people. He doesn't operate in broad strokes or mass-produced blessings when it comes to the deep assignments of your soul. He does precise. He does deliberate. He does things that make absolutely no sense from the outside, things that baffle the natural mind and provoke human criticism, but which carry an undeniable, visceral weight and profound resonance on the inside, in the deepest chambers of your spirit. And what you feel when you think about this person, that inexplicable pull, like an invisible cord drawing two souls together, that profound sense of recognition, as if you've known them for lifetimes, a soul-level familiarity, that feeling that something far bigger than both of you is powerfully at work, orchestrating events beyond your comprehension. That is not mere wishful thinking. That is not a fleeting fantasy or a desperate longing. That, my dear friend, is spiritual discernment. That is your spirit, the part of you that communes with the divine, recognizing a sacred assignment, a kingdom purpose, a divine covenant that your logical mind, with its limited earthly perspective, hasn't fully caught up to yet. It's like the soul's GPS has locked onto a destination, even as the conscious mind is still trying to interpret the map. And here is the final, most transformative layer, the truth that has the power to reframe everything you've perceived about this journey. The reason this connection feels so incredibly difficult to fully step into, so challenging to wholeheartedly embrace, isn't because it's wrong. It's not a red flag signaling danger or misalignment. On the contrary, it's difficult precisely because it's times too right, too perfectly aligned with your highest divine purpose. When something is truly, irrevocably aligned with your sacred calling, with the profound purpose God has woven into the fabric of your being, there is always, without exception, a resistance that arises, both internally and externally. This resistance is not arbitrary. It is always proportional to the significance, the magnitude, and the transformative power of what's being released through that connection. Think about it. You don't fight over things that don't matter. You don't expend immense energy battling for the trivial or the insignificant. Heaven and darkness do not mobilize their forces, do not engage in intense spiritual warfare over the ordinary, the inconsequential, or the mundane. The sheer intensity of the warfare you feel around this specific connection, the consistent opposition, the barrage of doubts, the external pressures, that intensity tells you something profound. It tells you, in no uncertain terms, that what God is preparing to release, to accomplish, to manifest through this divinely orchestrated connection is too significant, too impactful for the enemy to let pass without a fierce, desperate battle. And knowing that, understanding the profound spiritual weight of this resistance should not, under any circumstances, make you retreat into fear or hesitation. It should not cause you to shrink back. On the contrary, it should embolden you. It should make you stand, firm and unwavering, in the full authority of your calling. So tonight, before you close your eyes and surrender to sleep, Before you allow another conversation, another unsolicited opinion, another insidious fear to quietly talk you out of what God has already so clearly and profoundly confirmed in your spirit, I invite you to make a sacred declaration. Place your hand on your heart, grounding yourself in the truth of your being, and speak these words out loud, letting them resonate through every cell of your body and every corner of your soul. I release the fear that kept me small, that confined me within self-imposed boundaries and whispers of inadequacy. I release the suffocating need for permission from people who were never assigned to understand the profound depths of my divine calling or the unconventional path God has laid before me. I release every single agreement I unknowingly made with doubt, with delay, with the insidious lie that I am either too much or not enough for the expansive love and magnificent purpose God designed specifically for me. I receive this confirmation, this undeniable affirmation from heaven, with open hands and an open heart. I receive this connection, this divinely orchestrated partnership, as a sacred gift and a profound assignment. I receive the divine appointment embedded within this relationship, and I unequivocally trust the one who ordained it, the master weaver who designed every thread. I will not shrink this story to fit into human expectations. I will not edit this calling to appease external critics. I will not apologize for what heaven itself has authored in my life. I am chosen. I am seen. I am walking forward in faith and courage, and I will not look back. If this message confirmed something your spirit already knew, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And drop the word confirmed in the comments, because your declaration matters. And so does the next person who's going to see it and find their own breakthrough right there in the replies.